Ladies and gentlemen, people treat you how you teach them to. That's the raw truth, and it's one most people don't want to hear because it puts the responsibility squarely on your shoulders. But if you're serious about putting an end to being disrespected, this is where it starts. Not with them, not with what they said or didn't say, not with how your boss talks to you or how your partner rolls their eyes when you speak. It starts with you. Every time you stay silent when someone crosses a line, you're teaching them that line doesn't matter. Every time you laugh off a backhanded comment or let a toxic friend dump their negativity on you without pushing back, you're saying, this is okay with me. And the truth is, people are not mind readers. They're observers. They pick up on what you allow. They notice when you don't stand up for yourself. And slowly, without meaning to, they start to believe that maybe you're okay being treated that way. You're not. But here's the deal. Your actions speak way louder than your words. You can tell someone you don't like the way they talk to you, but if you keep coming back, if you keep entertaining the conversation, if you keep playing along, you're showing them that your boundaries are just suggestions, not rules. Think about any relationship where disrespect has become a pattern. It didn't start that way. Disrespect rarely shows up on day one. It creeps in. Someone makes a joke at your expense, you let it go. They interrupt you repeatedly, you stay quiet. They show up late, ignore your feelings, dismiss your concerns, and you make excuses for them. You do it because you're trying to keep the peace, or because you don't want to rock the boat, or maybe because you're hoping they'll just stop. But they don't. Why would they? You've taught them that you'll take it. Now, here's where the shift begins. You have to start retraining people on how to treat you, and that starts with retraining yourself. You have to raise your standards, not just in what you expect from others, but in what you expect from yourself. You've got to get clear on what's okay and what's not. And then, this is the hard part, you have to act on it every single time. You don't have to yell. You don't have to argue. You don't have to give a TED talk on boundaries. All you have to do is stop engaging with behavior that disrespects you. When someone talks down to you, you stop the conversation. When someone tries to manipulate you, you call it out or walk away. When someone keeps showing up with drama or disrespect, you stop giving them your energy, period. This is where your power lives, in your choices, in what you tolerate, in what you reinforce. The people around you will learn very quickly that you're not available for disrespect, but only if you're consistent. The first time you hold a boundary, people might be surprised. They might push back. They might get defensive. That's okay. That's part of the process. You are no longer playing the same role in their life. And that shift makes people uncomfortable. That it's not your job to manage their discomfort. It's your job to protect your peace. You have to be willing to lose people who don't respect you in order to find the ones who do. And I know that's scary. I know the idea of walking away, of confronting someone, of not being liked. It can feel overwhelming. But let me ask you this. How much longer are you willing to shrink yourself to avoid conflict? How much more of your time and energy are you going to hand over to people who don't value you? You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to respect yourself so fiercely that the only people who stick around are the ones who rise to meet your level, the ones who see your strength, your value, your integrity, and treat you accordingly. Respect isn't something you demand. It's something you command by the way you show up, by the way you speak, by the way you carry yourself, and most of all, by what you allow. People will always test the line. That's human nature. But when you consistently show them that you know your worth and you won't settle for less, they stop testing. They step up or they step out. Either way, you win. Boundaries are not walls. They're not about shutting people out or cutting everyone off. They're about protecting your energy, your peace, your time, and your values. They are the rules you set for how people are allowed to treat you, speak to you, and interact with you, and you are the only one responsible for enforcing them. Think of boundaries like doors with locks. Not everyone gets to walk in. Not everyone gets access to your inner world, your thoughts, your time, or your emotions. And just like with a locked door, you decide who gets a key. But too many of us leave that door wide open, hoping people will be respectful, hoping they'll just know what's okay and what's not. That's not how this works. No one knows where your boundaries are unless you clearly set them, and even then, they'll test them. Not because they're bad people, but because human beings are wired to push limits. That's why your job is not just to draw the line, but to hold the line every time. The problem is many people confuse boundaries with rejection. They think saying no is rude, that distancing themselves from negative influences is selfish, that speaking up for their needs makes them difficult. But setting a boundary is none of those things. It's an act of self-respect. It's saying, this is who I am, this is what matters to me, and this is how I expect to be treated. It's not about controlling others. It's about controlling your space. And here's something people don't tell you. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries are the ones who will resist them the most. They'll call you too sensitive, or say you've changed. Of course you have. You've decided you're no longer available for disrespect, manipulation, or one-sided relationships. That's growth. And growth is uncomfortable, not just for you, but for the people who have gotten used to the old version of you. Let them be uncomfortable. That's not your job to fix. Now let's talk about what healthy boundaries actually look like. A boundary can be as simple as deciding not to answer work emails after 7 p.m. It can be choosing not to engage in conversations that drain you or make you feel small. It can be saying no to events you don't want to attend or cutting off contact with people who are emotionally abusive. These aren't dramatic moves. These are necessary ones, because every time you reinforce a boundary, you're telling the world, I value myself. And listen, this doesn't mean you have to be cold, distant, or confrontational. In fact, the most effective boundaries are clear and kind. You can say, I'm not comfortable with that, or I don't have the capacity for this conversation right now. You don't need a long explanation. You don't owe anyone a justification. A boundary is a complete sentence. You don't need to argue. You don't need to convince. You just need to be firm. What makes boundaries hard is not setting them. It's dealing with the reaction when you do. People might guilt trip you. They might say you're overreacting. But here's the truth. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to take care of yourself, to protect your peace, and to make sure that the relationships in your life are built on mutual respect, not obligation, guilt, or fear. The people who truly respect you, they will honor your boundaries. They may not get it right immediately, but they'll listen, they'll adjust, they'll care enough to meet you where you are. And the ones who don't, let them go. You're not here to make everyone comfortable. You're here to live a life that's aligned with who you really are. When you start setting boundaries, something powerful happens. You stop chasing validation. You stop waiting for people to treat you right. You stop explaining yourself over and over again. Instead, you walk into every room with clarity, with self-respect, with quiet confidence. You know what you stand for, and that changes everything. Because when people realize you won't tolerate being disrespected, they either step up or they step out. And either way, you're no longer losing sleep over things that are outside of your control. You're no longer exhausted from managing everyone else's feelings. You're no longer shrinking yourself just to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You're standing tall, you're leading yourself, and most importantly, you're finally giving yourself the respect you deserve. When that happens, the world around you starts to reflect it back. Not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. And that's the power of boundaries. Confidence is not something you're born with, it's something you build. And the truth is, most people are waiting around for confidence to show up before they take action. But it doesn't work that way. Confidence isn't the cause of action, it's the result of it. You don't feel confident first and then speak up in the meeting. You speak up in the meeting, your voice shakes a little, and afterward you realize, wait, I survived that. That's how confidence grows. Too often we confuse confidence with being loud or extroverted or having all the answers. That's not confidence, that's performance. Real confidence is quieter. It's a knowing. It's showing up even when you feel scared, even when you doubt yourself, even when your hands are shaking and your heart is racing, because you've made a decision that your voice matters, that your needs matter, that you matter. Confidence begins with self-respect, and self-respect is built on the decisions you make every single day, especially the ones no one sees. It's waking up and doing what you said you'd do. It's taking care of your health. It's keeping your promises to yourself. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you reinforce the belief that you can trust yourself. And that trust, that's the root of real confidence. You can't feel good about yourself if you constantly abandon yourself. If you let people walk all over you, if you silence your opinions, if you shrink to make others comfortable. Confidence can't grow in an environment where you keep betraying your own values just to be accepted. That's not confidence, that's survival. And eventually it drains you. The shift happens when you stop outsourcing your self-worth, when you stop waiting for permission, when you decide that your value is not up for negotiation, that you don't need everyone to agree with you, that you can handle someone being disappointed in you and still feel strong in who you are. Confidence is built in those moments when you choose yourself over people-pleasing, when you choose action over fear, when you choose courage over comfort. Let me be clear, confidence isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to show up even when you don't. It's about trusting that whatever happens, you can figure it out. That even if you fail, you'll get back up. That even if it's messy, you'll learn. This mindset, this decision to act despite uncertainty, is how you train your brain to stop defaulting to self-doubt and start leaning into belief. And yes, confidence can be uncomfortable because it forces you to face your fears. It forces you to risk judgment. It forces you to stop hiding. But comfort is not the goal. Growth is. And you cannot grow if you keep choosing what feels safe over what makes you strong. The world doesn't give confidence to people who sit on the sidelines. It gives it to the ones who are willing to step into the game, get knocked down, and keep moving forward. You gain confidence by doing the hard things, by having the difficult conversation, by saying no, by showing up when it would be easier to disappear. Every one of those moments adds another brick to the foundation of your self-belief. And here's the best part, confidence is contagious. When you walk into a room with the energy of someone who knows their worth, not someone who's arrogant or fake, but someone who is grounded, clear, and unapologetic, it shifts the energy around you. People feel it, they respect it, and they respond to it, not because you're trying to impress them, but because you've stopped needing to. Confidence isn't about being the best, it's about being real, being present, owning your story, standing in your truth without needing to explain or defend it. And that kind of confidence, that's earned. That's built moment by moment, choice by choice, day by day. So stop waiting. Stop telling yourself you're not ready. You are. You become confident by being courageous. You become confident by taking that step before you feel ready. You become confident by deciding right now that you are worthy of being seen, being heard, and being respected without needing anyone else to validate it. Confidence is not magic, it's muscle. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. Disrespect has a way of catching you off guard. It sneaks in through tone, through timing, through subtle digs that leave you questioning if what just happened actually happened. And the moment you feel that sting, that moment right before you react, is where your power lives. It's in the pause. The power of the pause is one of the most underrated tools when it comes to earning respect and never letting someone treat you like you don't matter again. When someone disrespects you, your first instinct is usually emotional. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's embarrassment, maybe it's fear. And in that surge of emotion, it's easy to snap, to defend, to freeze, or to say something you'll later regret. But when you learn to pause, just for a few seconds, you shift from reacting to responding. And that shift changes everything. The pause is a moment of self-leadership. It's not weakness, and it's not passivity. It's control. It's confidence. It says, I'm in charge of how I handle this. And when you stop reacting impulsively to every rude comment or triggering situation, you stop giving your power away. You stop letting other people dictate the energy you bring to a room. Let's get practical. Say someone interrupts you in a meeting. Again, you feel your heart rate spike, your face flushes, you want to snap. Instead, pause, breathe, give yourself just a beat, and then say calmly, I wasn't finished speaking. That moment of pause gave you time to gather yourself, to speak with clarity, and to model the kind of presence that commands respect. Now, this takes practice because we live in a world that pushes us to respond instantly. Social media, emails, text messages, everything moves fast. But just because someone demands your attention doesn't mean they deserve your immediate reaction. The more you train yourself to pause, the more thoughtful your responses become. You stop living on emotional autopilot and start showing up with intention. And the beauty of the pause is that it works in every situation. Conflict with a friend? Pause before you lash out. Criticism from your boss? Pause before you internalize it. Passive-aggressive comment from a family member? Pause before you take the bait. That space gives you room to decide, what do I stand for? How do I want to handle this? What version of myself do I want to show up as right now? This isn't about being fake, it's about being effective. It's about choosing the response that reflects your strength instead of your wounds. Because let's be honest, most people who disrespect you are dealing with their own insecurities, their own power struggles, their own mess. When you pause, you give yourself the gift of not making their behavior about you. And that pause also teaches others something critical, that you are not easily shaken, that you're not going to be pulled into drama or made to feel small or react emotionally just because someone else is out of control. People respect what they can't predict, and when you pause, they notice. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. You've just shown them that you're grounded, that you don't need to shout to be heard, that your silence is not weakness, it's presence. And the truth is, the pause doesn't just protect you from reacting poorly. It gives you time to access your inner wisdom, to remember who you are, to realign with your values. Sometimes the best thing you can do in a moment of disrespect is simply not give it your energy. Not because you're afraid, but because you're focused. Because you've got bigger things to handle than someone else's immaturity. So start using the pause like a secret weapon. The next time you feel disrespected, don't react, breathe, sit with it, ask yourself what matters most, and then respond in a way that leaves you feeling proud of how you handled it. That's what it means to lead yourself. The world is always going to throw situations your way that test your patience, your confidence, and your boundaries. You don't control that, but you do control how you show up in those moments. And when you choose to pause, to breathe, to step back before stepping forward, you stop playing defense and start taking command. You show the world and yourself that your respect is not negotiable. That's not just power. That's growth. And that's how you start living like someone who demands respect without ever having to raise your voice to get it. What you say about yourself, out loud and in your head, shapes the way the world sees you. That's the truth most people don't understand. You teach others how to treat you, not just through your actions, but through your language. The way you speak about yourself is a reflection of your self-worth, and people pick up on it whether they realize it or not. If you speak with hesitation, if you downplay your strengths, if you constantly make jokes at your own expense or second-guess yourself in every sentence, people start to believe that's how you see yourself. And if you don't respect your voice, why should they? You have to stop speaking about yourself like you're not in the room. Stop talking yourself down to make others feel comfortable. Stop using phrases like, I'm just, or sorry, but, or this might sound stupid, but. Because every time you do that, you chip away at your credibility. You're unintentionally telling people, don't take me seriously, and they won't. Language is power. It sets the tone before you even finish your sentence. If you speak with uncertainty, you'll be treated with uncertainty. But if you speak with conviction, even if your voice shakes, you send a signal that you believe in what you're saying, that you believe in yourself. And that belief, that's contagious. Think about the people you admire, the ones who command attention when they speak. They're not necessarily the loudest, the smartest, or the most experienced. What they have is clarity, certainty. They speak as though their words matter, because to them they do. And that's where it begins for you, too. Your words have to matter to you first. Start by paying attention to the language you use every single day. When someone gives you a compliment, do you dismiss it? Do you say, oh, it was nothing, or I got lucky? That might feel humble, but it's actually a missed opportunity to affirm your own value. A simple thank you, I worked hard on it, carries a completely different energy. You're not bragging, you're owning your effort. Or when you're in a room and asked for your opinion, do you downplay it? Do you say things like, this might not make sense, but, or I'm probably wrong, but. That kind of language trains people to ignore you. It tells them not to listen. Instead, speak directly. Here's what I think, or this is what I've noticed. Stand by your insight. Your words deserve to take up space. But it goes deeper than just what you say to others. It's about what you say to yourself. The conversations in your mind shape the way you carry yourself. If you constantly say, I'm not good enough, I always mess things up, or they're better than me, that becomes your inner script, and eventually it becomes your reality. Your self-talk has to start reflecting the respect you want from others. You can't bully yourself in your head all day and expect people to see you as confident. You have to rewrite the script. Start with simple shifts. Change I can't to I'm learning how. Change I'm not good at this to I'm getting better every time. Change they're way ahead of me to their journey is different, but I'm still moving forward. These aren't just motivational phrases. They're tools to reshape your mindset. And a strong mindset speaks louder than any title, credential, or background. It's also important to remember that silence speaks too. If you stay quiet in moments when your voice should be heard, when someone disrespects you, when a boundary is crossed, when your values are questioned, you're sending a message that your voice doesn't matter. And it does. You don't need to have the perfect words. You just need to speak with honesty and intent. The way you speak is one of the most powerful forms of self-leadership you have. When you communicate with clarity, with purpose, and with confidence, you give others a blueprint for how to engage with you. You show them without needing to shout that you're not to be underestimated, that you're not to be talked over, that your presence matters. And when you start speaking like someone who knows their worth, everything changes. People will listen more closely. They'll think twice before crossing a line, not because you demanded respect, but because your presence earned it. You've got to be the first person to speak to yourself with the respect you expect from the world. That's where it all begins. And once you do that, once you consistently show up with powerful, intentional language, disrespect won't stick. Because your words will have already set the standard. What you surround yourself with determines what becomes possible for you. It shapes how you think, how you speak, how you act, and most importantly, how you see yourself. You could be the most talented, driven, kind-hearted person on the planet, but if you're spending your time around people who don't respect you, don't support you, or don't see your value, it will eventually wear you down. That kind of environment doesn't just drain your energy, it distorts your sense of self-worth. Let's be clear, the people in your life are either building you up or breaking you down. There is no neutral. Every comment, every joke, every interaction leaves a mark. The question is, are they planting seeds of self-belief, or are they slowly chipping away at your confidence? Are they encouraging your growth, or keeping you stuck where you are because they're afraid to grow themselves? Respect is contagious, so is disrespect. If the people you hang out with constantly interrupt you, ignore your boundaries, dismiss your ideas, or minimize your accomplishments, that behavior becomes normalized. You begin to tolerate it, you begin to expect it, and then you start wondering if maybe you deserve it. That's how powerful your circle is. It has the ability to either validate your greatness or validate your self-doubt. You have to start auditing your circle like your life depends on it, because it does. Your mindset, your habits, your goals, your peace, all of it is influenced by the people closest to you. And if someone's energy feels off, it probably is. If you leave a conversation feeling smaller than when you entered it, pay attention. That's a red flag. It doesn't mean they're a bad person, but it might mean they're not right for the version of you that you're becoming. Now, this doesn't mean you go out and cut everyone off. This is about boundaries, not abandonment. But it does mean you start being intentional. You start choosing who gets access to your time, your energy, your heart. You stop chasing people who make you question your worth. You stop pouring into relationships that never pour back. And you stop confusing history with compatibility. Just because someone's been in your life for a long time doesn't mean they belong in your future. And here's something powerful. When you level up your environment, you level up your identity. When you're around people who are confident, kind, focused, and respectful, you start rising to that standard. You start seeing what's possible. You start acting like someone who deserves to be in rooms where respect isn't earned by shouting, but by showing up with clarity and purpose. You begin to mirror the energy you're surrounded by. This is why finding your people matters. The ones who challenge you without belittling you. The ones who hold you accountable without tearing you down. The ones who listen when you speak and believe in your vision even when it's still messy. Those people don't just make life better, they make you better. And sometimes you won't find them until you've cleared space by walking away from the ones who no longer align with who you're becoming. Letting go of toxic or one-sided relationships isn't easy, but what's harder is staying in them and slowly losing yourself in the process. You deserve to be around people who see you clearly, who celebrate your growth, who hold your name with respect even when you're not in the room. You deserve to be in spaces where you don't have to shrink to fit in. And here's the truth. When you finally draw that line, when you start protecting your space and surrounding yourself with people who elevate you, everything changes. Your standards rise, your energy improves, your confidence grows. And suddenly, disrespect can't find a place to land. Not because it no longer exists in the world, but because it no longer belongs in yours. Choose your circle like your future depends on it, because it does. Your potential is too important to waste on people who can't see it, respect it, or support it. You are not too much. You are not asking for too much. You've just been around people who expected too little. Surround yourself with those who remind you of your power, not those who cause you to forget it. That shift alone will eliminate half the disrespect you've ever experienced. And from there, you'll no longer need to demand respect. It will already be the atmosphere you breathe. Respect isn't just about how others treat you. It's about the energy you carry into every room, every conversation, every decision, and nothing strengthens that energy more than living by clear personal standards. Standards are not rules you place on others. They're the boundaries and expectations you hold for yourself. They define how you show up, how you allow others to engage with you, and what kind of behavior you are and are not willing to tolerate. When you live with strong standards, you don't need to demand respect. People feel it. They sense that you carry yourself differently and they adjust accordingly. Think of standards as your internal compass. They help you navigate everything from your relationships to your work ethic to your self-care. When you don't know your own standards, you drift. You say yes when you mean no. You tolerate what feels wrong just to avoid conflict. You let things slide until resentment builds, and eventually, you lose touch with your own sense of value. You start accepting crumbs and calling it a meal because you forgot what you truly deserve. But the moment you decide to raise your standards, everything begins to shift. You start showing up for yourself in new ways. You stop over-explaining. You stop compromising on things that really matter. You stop making room for people who only bring chaos, drama, or doubt into your space. And instead, you start creating a life where your peace is protected, your time is respected, and your worth is non-negotiable. This doesn't happen overnight. Raising your standards is uncomfortable at first. Why? Because it disrupts patterns. Maybe you were raised in a home where speaking up was seen as disrespectful. Or you were in relationships where your needs were ignored. Or you worked in environments where burnout was praised and boundaries were punished. So when you start saying, "That's not okay with me," it feels foreign. It feels risky, but it's necessary because you cannot grow into your fullest self in an environment where your standards are constantly being compromised. Let's get real. Your standards show up in your habits, in whether or not you follow through on your goals, in how you talk to yourself and how you treat your body and how you let others treat your time. Every time you honor your own standards, even in the smallest ways, you're reinforcing the message that you are someone who deserves respect. And when people see that you take yourself seriously, they start taking you seriously too. You don't have to yell. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to be consistent. When you keep showing up with integrity, when you keep holding firm to what matters to you, people begin to realize that crossing your boundaries comes with consequences, not because you're cruel, but because you've done the work to know what you will and will not accept. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. When you live by your standards, you also give others permission to raise theirs. You model what self-respect looks like. And not everyone will like it. Some people will be uncomfortable. They'll call you too much or say you've changed. That's okay, let them. You're not here to make everyone comfortable. You're here to live a life that reflects your truth. And the incredible thing is, the more you raise your standards, the less tolerance you'll have for anything less. Disrespect won't shake you because it won't even get close. The people who aren't aligned with your values will naturally fall away, and the ones who rise to meet your energy, they'll stick around not because you demanded it, but because your presence sets the tone. So ask yourself, what are my standards in relationships, in communication, in health, in how I spend my time? And if the answer is unclear, that's your starting point. Define them, write them down, revisit them often. Your standards are your foundation. Build them strong, and everything else will rise with them. You don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate. And when you start holding yourself to a higher standard, the world has no choice but to follow your lead. That's how you stop being disrespected, not through confrontation or control, but by becoming someone whose life demands respect through clarity, consistency, and quiet confidence.